As you all know, this will be my last State of the City address as mayor. It's a little bittersweet as it's a yearly tradition I've grown quite fond of over the years, one that provides a good opportunity to look back on that year that's gone by and ponder decisions that lie ahead. I'll ask for your indulgence as I look back on some of the successes we've delivered as a City Council during the last 3 terms. I'm proud of what we've accomplished by working together, and these projects and initiatives would never have become reality without your support. What had been a dream for decades became a reality when we invested in arts and culture and opened the new Ottawa Art Gallery and the renovated Ottawa Arts Court. We also approved the new Central Library project in partnership with Library and Archives Canada, a net zero carbon facility that will become a flagship destination at Le Breton Flats and an important attraction in our city with more than 1.5 million visitors expected on an annual basis. I'm extremely proud that this iconic building will bear the Anishinaabe name Adesoke, or storytelling, as a testament to our reconciliation efforts with our Algonquin host nations. The design of this facility was widely acclaimed, and with the contract now awarded, we will break ground on our new Central Library in April of this year, along with our federal and Indigenous partners. I'm also pleased to report that over the last few months, we've had preliminary discussions with Chief Jocko and her team about the possibility of establishing an urban addition to their reserve in Ottawa, one that would create economic and cultural sharing opportunities in our city for members of Pikwakanagan. A resolution given the green light to the project was adopted yesterday by Chief Jocko's Band Council, and the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan are presently in discussions with their development partners on possible locations within the City of Ottawa. This follows in the footsteps of similar urban reserve projects that have taken place in Winnipeg, Saskatoon, and Vancouver in the last few years. As this initiative progresses in the coming months, staff will keep us apprised of developments, and I look forward to confirming Council's support for this project that further strengthens our commitment to our First Peoples. Work has now begun to transform the Chief William Commander Bridge, connecting Gatineau and Ottawa into a multi-use pathway for walking, cycling, and cross-country skiing. I'm pleased to report that this great project, which will feature a new timber deck on the top of the existing rail tracks, as well as new railings and lighting from Bayview Station to Gatineau, will be open to the public in the fall of 2022. We invested in connecting communities and building many important bridges to help our residents rediscover different neighborhoods and our beautiful waterways, with most dedicated to pedestrians and cyclists. The Max Keeping Bridge, the Odawa Crossing, the Jackie Holtzman Bridge, the Flora Foot Bridge that we see right on the screen, the Juno Beach Bridge, the Vimy Memorial Bridge, and the Rideau River Bridge at Carleton University being delivered as part of Stage 2 of LRT. Since 2010, we have grown our cycling network in a significant way, and these investments, including those we will make in 2022, total over $202 million in standalone cycling infrastructure. This is in addition to the many complete streets and road renewal projects that have also improved active transportation during our time at the City Council. In 2010, we had 672 kilometers of cycling infrastructure across our city. By the end of this year, we will have 1,065 kilometers, an increase of 58% in our cycling network over the past 12 years. As a result, Ottawa's Gold Bicycle-Friendly Community Award was renewed last year by the Share the Road Coalition for a 3-year period, and we remain only one of 3 cities in Ontario to be recognized with this designation. We also decided to address systemic issues that create barriers for women and racialized individuals living in our community. We now have a council liaison for women and gender equity, as well as a council liaison for anti-racism and ethnocultural relations initiatives. We've created the Anti-Racism Secretariat, which is currently hard at work consulting with members of the community to develop the city's first anti-racism strategy, which will be presented to Council in June of this year. We've invested in our environment by taking bold decisions early on, like replacing thousands of bus trips from our streets thanks to our electric LRT, reducing our GHG emissions and ensuring that future generations will have clean air to breathe in our city. The purchase of our first electric buses, which was a campaign of mine in 2018, begins the transition of the rest of the bus fleet towards zero-emission buses. This year, OC Transpo will purchase another 74 electric buses, which will come into service next year and with 450 scheduled to serve transit users by 2027. Our ambitious plan will convert the entire diesel fleet to zero-emission buses by 2036. We also invested significantly in the Ottawa River Action Plan, and thanks to the commissioning of the combined sewage storage tunnel last year, we are now preventing frequent sewage outflows into the Ottawa River and keeping our water clean for wildlife and our beaches open much more often. Now, before the pandemic, our tourism and hospitality sectors were growing at a very impressive rate, thanks to some key initiatives that we delivered together. Just think back on the excitement that Ottawa 2017 brought to our community and the impressive year-long program of events we delivered all across the city to mark Canada's 150th anniversary. I'll never forget the magic I saw in the eyes of children and grandparents alike as hundreds of thousands of spectators descended on downtown Ottawa to catch a glimpse of Longmaw the dragon and Kumo the spider chasing each other on our streets. Between La Machine, the Grey Cup, the NHL Outdoor Classic, the Juno Awards, the Red Bull Crashed Ice, and hundreds of other special events, we set records for visitors, hotel occupancy, and airport traffic. And although we had feared a tourism hangover in the following years, it did not materialize, and that momentum was sustained until the start of the pandemic. And I want to thank our partners at Ottawa Tourism for their incredible efforts throughout the pandemic as they turned their attention to promoting Ottawa's bike trails, its natural beauty, and many exciting experiences discovering our rural villages. Over the years, our municipal investments in public spaces around the city have helped Ottawa Tourism attract major events to the nation's capital. After decades of being nothing more than a parking lot surrounded by crumbling infrastructure and asphalt, we revitalized Lansdowne Park and made it a real people place with new sports teams, retail, restaurants, not to mention a tremendous amount of green space, trees, gardens, and even an apple orchard. Today, we have the 67s playing hockey, the Red Blacks playing football, the Atletico playing soccer, and the Blackjacks playing basketball at TD Place, offering world-class entertainment almost year-round to thousands and thousands of sports fans. We've also hosted amazing events at Lansdowne, like the Grey Cup, the NHL Classic, the Davis Cup, the Brier, the National Figure Skating Championships, the Volleyball Men's League Championships, and the FIFA Women's World Cup. Lansdowne is a jewel in Ottawa's crown, and it's no small part because of this wonderful heritage buildings we have preserved on that site and once again made available to the public. The Aberdeen Pavilion is a one-of-a-kind structure that dates back to 1898, when it was built to welcome the Central Canada Exhibition Association. In the following years, it's also served as a meeting point for soldiers heading out to combat in the Boer War, as well as World War I and World War II, but also as an ice pad where the original Senators won the Stanley Cup in 1904. The building has seen it all, and it remains today the only unsupported building of its type in all of North America. Unfortunately, after decades of neglect, in the second half of the 21st century, the Aberdeen Pavilion was abandoned and taken over by thousands of pigeons before being condemned for demolition. Thankfully, on July 2nd, 1992, Council voted to reverse the decision and to invest funds required to save the building and restore it to its former glory. We'll be working with the Central Canada Exhibition, or CCEA, to mark the 30th anniversary of that important date on July 2nd, this summer, and for that occasion, I've asked city staff to work with the former organizers of the X to host an old-fashioned exhibition at Lansdowne. I know it will bring back some good memories for many residents who enjoyed the X and probably create some new ones who weren't around at the time. Our many parks around the city not only offer learning opportunities to children, but also an escape for families and residents year-round. Since 2010, this is really quite a remarkable figure. We have opened 166 new parks in all corners of the city, including 11 parks that will be opening this year, something we should be very proud of. We've also delivered on some important regional recreation facilities across the city, like the François Dupuis Rec Centre in Cumberland, the Richcraft Recreation Complex in Canada North, the Minto Rec Centre in Barhaven, and the new arena at Cardell Rec Centre in Stittsville, just to name a few. Although our LRT has performed at approximately 99% since it relaunched on November 12, our transit users have had to be very patient through several issues that have plagued the system since its launch in 2019. I recognize that this has been a source of anxiety and frustration and disappointment for many users who rely on LRT to go to work or school or medical appointments. That said, I was comforted to hear our safety experts from TRA state during a Transit Commission meeting that they thought this was an excellent system that needed a more rigorous inspection and maintenance regime. But I can assure you that we will continue to hold RTM and Alstom's feet to the fire over the coming months. Another ongoing challenge in our community is the crisis facing our homeless residents. Despite historic increases in support and investments in affordable housing by all levels of government, the number of residents living without a fixed address across the country has only increased due to the pandemic. I'm proud that we have made historic capital investments of more than $60 million in this term of council in order to build affordable and supportive housing units for our residents in need. This is, of course, in addition to the city's overall contributions to housing and homelessness, which will total $119 million in 2022. Last year, we started welcoming veterans who are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless into a beautiful new facility called Veterans House located at Water Ridge Village or the old CFB Rockcliffe Base. The initiative has been a great success, and Veterans House has plans to deliver similar projects in other Canadian cities. Once again, Ottawa, a pioneer in this. We're continually making progress, and thanks to our long-range financial plan for housing and our contributions of $15 million per year, we will be able to build up to 500 affordable housing units every year, delivering on the commitments we have made as part of our 10-year housing and homelessness plan. I know that public safety is top of mind for all residents who want safe streets and neighborhoods for their children and families to enjoy. But in the last few years, we've witnessed an increase in gun violence, and gang activity has created challenges and anxiety in many neighborhoods around the city. The calls for enhanced police presence have been voiced by many councillors, as well as thousands of concerned members of the public, and that's why I supported the 3% budget increase, over 3%, we had initially allocated to OPS as part of the budget directions in July. I believe these public safety concerns are still very much top of mind for residents, and it will take some time for us to understand whether the redirection of these OPS funds was the right thing for the betterment of our communities. But the greatest challenge of our time remains climate change, which threatens the very existence of human life on the planet and has led to some very local impacts right here in Ottawa. Excuse me. In 2018, we had to respond to tornadoes that tore through and devastated a number of communities. In 2017-2019, we had to deal with significant flooding events that affected hundreds of residents living along waterways. But through it all, our community came together to help those in need. Despite the lingering uncertainty and hardship we've endured over the last 2 years, our city has managed to continue on its path of growth and progress. Thanks to the impressive efforts of Ottawa Public Health and the paramedic service, the city led a massive vaccination campaign that has placed us amongst the most vaccinated in all of Canada. Working with our many healthcare partners, our Emergency Operations Centre transformed numerous city facilities into vaccination centres that have so far provided more than 2.2 million doses of vaccine to protect our residents from illness and hospitalization due to COVID-19. The Emergency Operations Centre has now been reactivated since December and is hard at work delivering the important boosters that will protect us against the rise of Omicron. In the early days of the vaccination campaign, our paramedics administered over 53,000 doses to our seniors living in long-term care homes. Now, throughout the pandemic, our city team quickly innovated and continued to serve residents and deliver on strategic priorities to advance our city. Community and social services, as well as our human needs task force, played a key role in helping our residents most in need during the pandemic. Last spring, they answered the call and offered emergency childcare services to 736 children of essential workers who had to be present on the front lines. They also provided 24/7 supports and services to over 1,000 households in need of temporary accommodation across the city. They established multiple respite centers and physical distance centers to help avoid overcrowding and reduce the spread of COVID-19 in our homelessness shelters. Now, as we head into the third year of the pandemic, I want to encourage all our residents to remain hopeful, to continue to listen to public health guidelines, and of course to get vaccinated, which is truly our only way out of this. Now, during the State of the City address 2 years ago, I announced the key to the city to a number of accomplished Canadians who have had an impact on our city and its image on the national and even international stage. I know the recipients were looking forward to their Key to the City ceremony, which we had to cancel due to COVID-19, but I'm hoping 2022 is finally the year we get to host them at City Hall. As a reminder, the recipients are accomplished golfer and three-time Canadian Press Female Athlete of the Year, Brooke Henderson, former Governor General, veteran journalist and global ambassador for La Francophonie, le très honorable Michael Jean, TSN sportscaster and author and proud Carleton University journalism grad, James Duthie, and last but not least, the Ottawa Citizen, an organization that has been providing news coverage in the nation's capital for 175 years, the longest continuing local business in Ottawa today. This year, in recognition of her outstanding efforts and leadership, I'll be giving the key to the city to Dr. Vera Etches, our Medical Officer of Health, who has been an incredible leader to an incredible team since the start of COVID-19. She has inspired control, confidence, and calm to our residents in the darkest days of the pandemic, and as a result of her efforts, Ottawa has been a leader in the fight against COVID-19. Because Dr. Etches would not have delivered such a professional and coordinated response without the help of others, I will also be giving the key to the city to the entire team at Ottawa Public Health who have been instrumental in these efforts all along. I'm quite proud of the fact that we have delivered 12 balanced budgets while respecting the tax commitments I made to residents. I believe both residents and businesses have benefited from this stability and predictability over the years, one that has provided them an ability to plan for the future. I certainly encourage all those who will be running in the election and then our future council to take a similar fiscally responsible approach going forward. We have to remember that thousands of residents in our city unfortunately live paycheck to paycheck, and they need that stability and predictability even more now as we try to come out of the pandemic. I believe that it's our role as elected officials to talk up our city as opposed to talking it down. When we talk up our city, we help to build up our city. And we have one of the highest vaccination rates in the country, something we should be very proud of. The quality of life Ottawa residents have is very high because we live in a beautiful, green, livable city with hundreds of parks and extensive networks for walking and cycling along some beautiful waterways. The compassion and generosity of our city residents is second to none. We should take a critical thinking approach to the legislative reports and proposals that are before us, and there's lots of work for us to do. But we also have an obligation, I believe, to recognize the good things that make Ottawa one of the best cities in the world to live in. Our residents love their city and they're proud of it, and I witness each and every day when I'm out in the community this love of community. I hope that in the coming years we can find a return to balance, a more objective appreciation of how this great city does compared to other cities. While I'm quite proud of the fact we've delivered together over the 12 years, we can't ignore the hardships and challenges we've been through and those that remain. I want to thank our outstanding city staff for their work during the past year, from the snowplow operators to our public health nurses, our firefighters to those helping our small businesses in need, as well as our senior leadership team under Steve Kanalakis' leadership for their commitment to helping our residents day in and day out. As I mentioned in my announcement on December 10th, I very much look forward to my final months in office, and I will continue to give my all to our city and our residents. I look forward to continuing our important work during this time as we serve our residents and plan for the future of our great city.